What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dirtyshore Underground. Happy Easter. Obviously, it's Sunday night, so Walking Dead night. Spoilers entail. But before we even get there, Rob,
hit him with the links.
Remember the silence and then the links?
Very first thing out to everybody. Happy Zombie Jesus Day, everybody. It seems fitting since we are reviewing an episode of The Walking Dead that we send a happy Zombie Jesus Day out to everybody out there who's listening. So links, as always, make sure you're following or you're checking out DirtyshoreUnderground.com. New episodes of the podcast every Thursday, bonus episodes every Monday or Tuesday. We do a review of The Walking Dead each and every week. Obviously, next week the episode review will be about a half hour late because it's a 90-minute final episode. But new episodes every week on Thursdays. Make sure you're following Dirtyshore UG on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, where you can get all the latest updates, including links to the live stream, which is available at youtube.com/c/DirtyShoreUG-OTA. We do live stream every single episode of the podcast. Scroll down to the bottom, you can check out the comments section, and then join in with us, comment, ask a question. Keep in mind there is about a 40-second delay, so give us some context to what your question is, so that we know what you are asking a question about. So, and the spoiler alert, as always, we are reviewing the latest episode of The Walking Dead. So if you haven't seen Season 6, Episode 15, stop right here. Go watch the episode. Come on back. We're also going to be talking about the previous episodes from the season, previous seasons, probably something from Fear the Walking Dead, maybe the compendiums of the comics as well. So here's your spoiler alert. Anything that happens after this is on you. So, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago when Daryl went missing for a little while, and they had hashtag if Daryl dies we riot, and I've kept that going for a while.
Who doesn't remember that?
Yeah. So let's lead off with the end. What happened to Daryl?
Well, I made the stupid mistake of fucking checking my phone to make sure a friend was alright in the process.
But
I don't think Daryl's dead, Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian, thank you for joining us. That's the big question. Did Daryl die? Because, I mean, again, going back a couple years ago, everyone said, you can't die. Daryl cannot die. And then Kirkman has shown us since then, nobody is safe. He'll kill off... He will build you up to love a character over 3 or 4 episodes just to kill him. Somebody who we had no affinity for, he makes us love them before he kills them. And now we're building up to Daryl, and we have this Deadpool going on the podcast here about who's going to die. I had my money on Daryl because I think that's the safe bet. It's one of those bets that you make and you hope you're not right. But the question is, here we are. What's right?
It's also, even if he did get hit and we don't see him in the final episode, it's a good setup for him to take his time, his walk away, do Boondock Saints 3, right, and then come back and be like, I just killed half the fucking people, and I killed Negan.
I don't think you could take that break, because somehow Glenn's getting to Negan. We know that's where this is going. Glenn and Michonne are going to end up with Negan. For anybody who hung up, Sebastian, I apologize. Sebastian, no hablas español, pero nosotros solo hablamos en inglés. Lo siento, amigo. Hablo español un poquito, pero portugués nada. Lo siento. Anyway, so multicultural podcast. But yeah, so when it comes down to Daryl, what do you think just happened with Daryl?
Well, obviously we don't know, but I'm hoping best case scenario, this is the use of him getting to go do Boondock Saints 3, right, which we've all been waiting on.
Right.
I think if they did kill him off, it wouldn't be how it cut off. I think you would see it. They would give people that moment to fucking be like,
well,
rage bit.
They'll go back. I mean, that's what they do.
They'll go back, but I think they would, if anything, they would have saved him for the season finale kill.
Well, but maybe they go back in the season finale and we see the actual death.
Maybe.
And maybe we're both right, and they kill Glenn and Daryl in the season finale.
I don't want to be right about Daryl. I would rather them kill Carol, even though Daryl hasn't hit it yet.
Which leads to another interesting question, but
we saw Lucille tonight.
Where do we see Lucille?
After the show.
Okay, well, so that's what I was going to say. We saw Negan in the role for the trailer for next week. Mm-hmm. We saw Lucille in the trailer for next week. We saw a lot in the trailer for next week. We didn't see Daryl.
Which I'm still in the running for the $1. If anybody's been following the podcast for like the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. But, so the other big question is, where's Carol? Because Carol disappeared.
Nobody found her.
And nobody found her. Yeah.
All they kept running into was more Negan's people.
Right.
And apparently they're really fucking close to Alexandria.
Well, so they were 12 kilometers away, and I can't remember the exact, I think it's 0.66 kilometers per mile. So assume they're about, like 8 miles away from Alexandria?
That's pretty fucking close.
But they were headed that way.
And they even said that.
At full speed. And Carol must have pushed that car pretty fucking far. That is a long stretch of road to get going before she could turn it on. But, because she'd been gone a while before they figured out she was gone. But...
Well, I think as far as the way she'd have to get is a quarter mile. If she does it in the middle of the night, most people are sleeping.
Yeah. Well, but that's a long straight road. So in order to keep out of the view of the guard stand, she'd have to get down and around a bend or down a hill somewhere so that she wouldn't be seen. But 8 miles away is not far from Alexandria. So kind of simultaneously we have Negan's people closing in on Alexandria. They've been there before, though. They knew that was the car that was sitting there. And now we have Glenn and Michonne in custody.
Captured.
Yeah. And by the way, Daryl is supposed to be a great goddamn tracker, but for whatever it's worth, he gets surprised a lot in the woods. And I don't know if it's because he has other people with him and that throws him off.
But didn't he walk up on them?
He walked up on the group, but then while he's trying to have a conversation with Glenn, they snuck up on him. And, again, I understand that they're writing for writing's sake and that they're trying to move the story along and that this is how they get to where they're going. But, Michonne and Glenn are tromping through the woods. Just loud, 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 loud.
And Daryl's always the quiet one.
Daryl is the quiet one. But, guys, you gotta know that there's other people, there's other creatures in the woods. Maybe not, be as loud as possible. That's how you get whistled and then have people step out. Really super dramatic style, too. One at a time to come up. Also, Dwight, what's with the holding the trigger with the middle finger? Did you notice that?
I think in some training exercises, they tell you to keep the pointer finger up here, and then you actually use this finger.
One of the paintball players.
They're supposed to use these two.
Yeah, they use middle and ring finger, right?
But yeah, that's if you got the double trigger. But I always use the top two when I played.
So, because every paintball player I've ever known uses their middle finger, and I think that it's a good indicator whether or not somebody plays paintball or uses real guns about what finger they put on the trigger, because you're supposed to have the butt of the gun in your hand and grip it with the bottom three hands and pull it. So when I see somebody with their middle finger on the trigger, I think paintball immediately.
It would also be a good question to ask Scott if he was around to ask. He's now on night shift.
Yeah.
So I found that out last week, but he's also a gun instructor. He does the classes for all that, so he'd be somebody to ask about it. So
and I was gonna say,
will.
Every instructor that I've had has always told me use the first finger because it's the one you can tell pressure best with. It's the one you have the most dexterity with, so it's the best one to use for the trigger. But maybe we'll have an answer for that later.
I use this one more than anything for video gaming, so I feel like that would be my shooting finger.
Yeah, but I mean, paintball is one thing, because paintball gun, how many pounds of pressure do you need to pull the trigger?
It would depend on the gun you use.
Let's just say
some of them have like a pressure switch regulator behind the trigger, so that you can kind of hold a certain amount of pressure on it. It would almost be automatic.
Right. Yeah.
But not enough to where you couldn't use it in a competition. It's where you're just holding enough force on it, so the air pushes it back, and then it's coming
pops it against your finger, basically.
Yeah, and it's coming right back because of where your finger's sitting.
Right. But for the most part, you pull it pretty easily. That's why you can basically use that double trigger.
That's why with the double trigger they tell you to do this.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do this, and I would sit there, like there would be times, like when I used to play paintball, I would hold the gun with one hand, I would just, real fast like this. Because a lot of times when you're on a speedball course, it's just shooting somebody's general direction, hoping you hit somebody.
Yeah.
If you know where they're at, just as fast as you can and hope that fucking line of paint hits them because they're stupid enough to jump out in front of them.
So, that is much different from my hand. Have you ever shot a handgun before?
I've shot shotguns, never a handgun.
Okay, so like for a handgun, you need between 8 and 15 pounds of pressure to actually get the trigger to move. So I don't know that's the finger that you want to do that. You always want to have the dexterity of the first finger. But so when I see that, I think that that's a guy who hasn't had much training with real guns. He's usually playing paintball or playing with stunt guns the way that they would be here, because the trigger on a stunt gun is also pretty easy because of the action of the weapon. But completely off topic. It distracts me when Dwight comes around the tree and he's got his first finger pointing at you and his middle finger on the trigger. Just distracting. So,
I'm surprised Dwayne was back on his feet after his little mouthful session that he had last week.
Dwight,
Dwight,
yeah.
I would think he'd be recuperating from that massacre.
Well, he got bit through the jeans, so I don't know if that played a part in it.
As long as Eugene held on, something had.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it looked like it was like the very next day.
See, I don't think it was the very next day. I don't know that it could be the very next day.
I probably would have had to take a week. Then again, as we were told last week, it just seemed like it was worse and longer to us because we're guys. So
right, yeah. And again, the bite actually takes 10 seconds. We think it takes 3 minutes because we're watching it like, let go, man, let go. So, but all right, so cutting back, I guess, to the beginning of the episode. Open on just the blood dripping.
It wasn't just the blood dripping. You heard
that scene, though.
You heard stuff in the background. The cross was on the ground and all that bullshit.
But we're trying to figure out what happens. What happens is Carol is a fucking badass. But as Flash pointed out to me, the hashtag that we've been attributing to Carl, hashtag he's got no game and no aim, kind of applies to Carol too. Because what I realized in talking to her during the episode, Carol shot at all those guys. She only killed one of them. She didn't kill him with a bullet. Well, she killed him with the fucking spear.
Well, with the machine pistol, she was obviously just.
See, now,
it was like a distraction tactic.
It could not have been a machine pistol, though, because she was pulling the trigger, so it was a semi-auto handgun.
See, to me, it sounded like it was a.
It sounded like it, but there's no way.
Like, it sounded to me like it was a Glock 9 automatic.
So, like, one of those ones that's been modified for full automatic fire. The problem is that is a gas-powered rifle, or gas-powered handgun. So, that means that the gas that is created inside the barrel gets fed back into the weapon to pop up the next round to continuous fire. Now, the only thing that gets in the way is that there's this little metal thumb that catches, and it keeps it from being fully automatic. Follow that down, becomes fully automatic. If you keep pulling the trigger after it's empty, it doesn't make that click, 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 click sound. It just stops. Yeah. But what we heard is, when it was hidden, we still heard the click, 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 click of her pulling the trigger. So my thought is she's got to be pulling the trigger every time, on every shot.
That's a very quick pull then, because it was just.
Well, maybe she was double triggering it. I don't know.
Maybe she had the double trigger on there.
Yeah.
Shit.
But in reality, though, that was the funny thing I was talking about with Flash, is that she really only kills one guy, and she doesn't kill him with a bullet. She killed him with a spear to the chest. Still not a bad shot. With a handgun from 40 feet away, she hits all of them anyway, except the driver.
And outside of Carol fashion, she didn't finish them all off like she normally would.
Which was strange. Yeah, because she got up on the car, and then she didn't finish them off.
And we seen at one point the one guy he hid in the woods, and then he was following Rick and the other dude.
And what's the plan? If you are that guy, what's your plan? So you see two guys.
I don't know.
Both of them have weapons, and you're going to follow them.
I don't know what his plan is, because at this point all he had was the fucking crucifix, as far as we know of.
No, he had a knife. He did have a knife on his belt. So he has a knife, but you got a guy who has a Colt Python, and Morgan has a...
shoot you
clearly
for looking at him the wrong way.
Well, he may not know that, but he knows that he walked up the only thing he's seen of Rick is he walked up and shook the guy and then stabbed him in the head. Like, that's all we've seen of him thus far. And then Morgan walks up and, like, batters the zombie in the head. Which, again, guys, a little sidebar. To kill a zombie, you have to destroy the brain. How is Morgan's hitting these zombies in the head killing them?
Ones that have been walking around for a while, I can understand.
Well,
but
and
these were fresh ones.
Later in the episode, he catches the guy in the eye socket, and it then like pops out the back of the skull. I'm with you. Clearly, that would kill him. But the fresh guy, where he hits him.
The fresh ones, I don't even think it would pop out the skull.
Well, no. And the guy that was on the road, he was eating his buddy, who, well, 15 minutes ago they were buddies, now they're both dead. But all Morgan does is just catch him upside the head and turn him around, and he drops him. How is that killing him? I just don't understand. I mean, and maybe it doesn't kill him, it breaks the neck, and now they're still zombified, but they can't move. Because you still need the connector down to get up and move around. Mm-hmm. Which we've seen in other episodes where there have been, the very first episode, Bicycle Girl, who's missing the bottom half of herself. She's still zombified and she still crawls, but she's missing the bottom half. So, I don't know. I just don't know how Morgan is killing these zombies by cracking them in the head with a stick.
That's more or less knockout status the way he hits them.
Right, but
because he's hitting them just across here.
Right, and I get that. So you hit him in the skull, you're knocking him out. A human being would get knocked out too. Maybe you're turning the head and breaking the neck, but that's not killing them. Then they're just laying on the ground like
And like when you take like classes for martial arts and shit like that.
Yeah.
They tell you if you gotta take a punch, take it right here.
The hardest part of the head.
Yep.
When you see somebody coming at you, just drop your head down, let them hit you in the forehead.
Because if you take it here, obviously the temple.
Also, don't take it in the jaw because that's how you get knocked out. That's how you get knocked out, by getting your head. Don't get your head turned. That's the number one thing.
Rhonda did.
Shake the brain. Yeah, don't let him shake the brain. Which, okay, so that's interesting because you're not supposed to get your head turned because if your head turns sharply, it shakes the brain and knocks you out. But it still doesn't destroy the brain, which is the goal of stabbing them in the head or shooting them in the head is to destroy the brain stem. So I don't know. So Robert Kirkman, if you're watching, let us know how it is that Morgan's stick can kill zombies, whether it's magic or something.
It'd be real interesting if he watched that shit, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So what is what is your thought? What are you thinking if you're that guy? You've seen Carol mow everybody down, then kill the driver with the stick. Her two friends roll up. They finish off two of your buddies. Oh, you know what? No, she did kill one guy with a bullet. The guy on the top of the roof of the truck, who tumbled onto the hood, he was dead. So she did kill him with a gun.
I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of ready for Carol to go.
You want her to die?
I'm sorry to say it, but I'm ready for her to go.
Okay.
I'm kind of tired of the mommy act. I miss badass Carol from On the Way to Terminus.
She was playing dumb to these guys on the road.
Yeah, she was, but at the same time, she's in that moment, all because, you know, with the baby situation going on with Maggie and everything. Yeah. I'd rather just see badass Carol, look at the flowers, I'm going to shoot you in the head. So
if we don't get old Carol back, you're okay with her being done?
Yep. So I'm perfectly okay with it.
Where is she? Alright, so, because let's analyze the scene. Driver is dead next to Carol's car. Guy 1 from the back was eating the driver. Guy 2 from the back was on the hood of the car. He's dead. Guy 3 from the back was the one laying on the street that Carol finished off. Well, thought she finished off.
Shot him in the chest.
Yeah. Then stole his cigarettes without his cigarette pack. By the way, again, Carol.
That's the same thing she actually did.
It's laying next to him. I would only assume that she took all the cigarettes out of the pack, but left the pack. Because she also smoked like whole pack cigarettes at Alexandria.
I mean, we're assuming that, but that's not necessarily the case. They could flash back and show where she shot him, and the pack of cigarettes just fell out.
Maybe.
And there might have been one in there that we just weren't seeing.
She just takes out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so he's down. The front seat passenger is the one who's following. So the blood trail has to be Carol. We know that the blood trail's Carol. That's what
we're assuming.
Who else would it be?
Well, zombies. continuously walking around? What if
I guess.
what if a fresh zombie was just bleeding out?
And
It turns out they were
following
bleeding out and they were just walking that direction because they heard something. So we really don't know, and this is Robert Kirkman fashion, so...
Set him up for something, yeah. So, what about the guy with the body armor that they see? And by the way, Morgan, if you fuck with my shot one more time, I'm gonna pop you in the head. Like, Rick's got that guy in the body armor, like, in his sights, and Morgan, like, shoves him out of the way.
Come on. You wanna know who that guy looked like to me?
Who?
It looked like, fuck. The one guy from our crew, what the fuck is his name? I already forgot.
I have no idea.
Left Rosita.
Abraham?
Yes.
I did kind of look
the
like
top of the hair, kind of.
Yeah, it was gingery.
Almost like it looked like he was like a stand-in for somebody else, for something more important maybe later on.
But we did have, that's the same kind of body armor that Glenn got from the prison, too, was that SWAT-style body armor. So, begs a lot of questions about where that guy was going, who he was. But they're also assuming that all of those Hilltop weapons are the Saviors, which I don't know is true. The Hilltop could have been trading with a lot of people with those weapons. So,
well, they said they were open to trading with people.
Yeah.
But their worst one was with Negan because they would come in and demand things where they were shooting somebody. So
yeah, kill one, and then that's all you have to kill. So, all right. So we have to kind of like figure out where everybody is. Start of the episode, we wasted this scene, and then we're back to the home life, the same as the start of last week's episode. Like, isn't it cute? Glenn and Maggie in the shower, and Rick and Michonne in bed. Weird Adam and Eve symbology with the apple. I'm not really sure what the whole point of that was, but
that to me feels like they're trying to butter it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, hey, go ahead and like Michonne a little bit more because we might kill her off.
Because Rick's got a poison dick, and everybody he fucks dies. That's how that works. Well, no, all the women who mother his children who he fucks die. That's, I guess, is a better way to say that. So,
I'm assuming Flash isn't watching tonight because she hasn't said nothing yet.
Yeah, I would assume not. I don't know. Wouldn't know what she's doing actually. Yeah, I think she's working on something.
And we don't care what his name is. She'll see that later. I'll probably get yelled at for it.
What was I going to say? So, alright, so we see Rick and Michonne, they're buttering us up. Maggie and Glenn, I think, is also buttering us up because, obviously, at the end, Maggie's having some sort of difficulty. Now, I don't know if they're trying... I mean, they're trying to get us to think she's having a miscarriage, clearly. But it also could be... I'm feeling Glenn's pain from far away. I don't know. And again, I haven't read the comics, so I don't know if she actually has the baby that she's pregnant with.
At this part, I'm out of the loop with it too.
Okay.
So
we don't know. So we have no idea about
like
that.
I said last week, that's why I refused to read the book because I don't want to accidentally spoil anything for you and then get punched in the face for it on a podcast.
There you go. So I mean, having been around this myself, I know that it's not necessarily that... Hi, Angie. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, the apple was definitely the post-booty snack. Not sure I pick an apple as a post-booty call snack. It's a little messy. It's in bed. I mean, obviously it was making a mess everywhere. I think it was more about the symbology of Adam and Eve, and they're like the first couple of Alexandria, and they have the baby and all that stuff. But Angie says, I don't think the blood is Carol. It's got to be a walker. But the question then, Angie, and for everyone else is, whose blood? If it's not Carol's blood, where's Carol? The guns are gone, and both cars are there. So where did Carol go?
Different direction, maybe.
Down the road. Continued on down the road. And where the fuck is she going? Why did she leave? Like, so many unanswered questions for Carol.
Now, last week we talked about how the two series could meet up.
Carol goes west.
Carol's starting to go west.
She is going west. So there's that. So Carol ends up in L.A. or in the desert and finds this other crew, and she's like, "You remind me a lot of Nick and Rick."
And somehow Rick always finds her. So
that's true. Or she brings everybody out east. Could be that. Who knows?
It could be anything.
So, so there, Maggie is assumedly going through some pains. Especially sad because of what we think may happen next week with Glenn, that she may end up losing everything, which is also super fucked up as far as Kirk. But Kirkman does that shit where like a character loses everything. Rick has multiple times over the course of this lost or felt like he's lost everything. So
let me ask you this at this point: do you think we see Negan from the front next week?
I don't know. I think that Negan we may have seen all of Negan that we're going to see. For the entire, I think that they may have teased as much as they're actually going to show us at all.
I mean, we've seen Lucille in the credit / scenes from the next Walking Dead.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean anything. We have no idea.
All I need is one face shot.
All you need is
in the hour and a half, one face shot.
To win $1, yes, one face shot. And who knows? I would like to think so because I really want to see what Jeffrey Dean Stanley looks like.
And how bad is it that we have a quote-unquote Deadpool going over a fucking $1?
Yeah.
To quote the Deadpool movie.
AG says, true, but Carol is too bad to be killed after knocking out those guys. Carol's having her breakdown. Everybody has had one. AG, I would agree, but I think Carol has had a couple of breakdowns. And maybe everybody gets one. I don't know that everybody has had one. I think everybody gets like versions of that. But if Carol is having a breakdown, she's having an epic one. Because you don't. The number one rule in Rob's zombie apocalypse survival group is don't leave the group. If you leave, you're on your own.
Is that a book coming soon that I can read in about 2 to 3 years?
I mean, maybe I should write one. But, I mean, the number one rule has to be stay with us. I don't care what kind of breakdown you're having. We can work it out. But if you leave, we have to let you go. Because now you're threatening... Rick and Morgan are being threatened because they left. Daryl has threatened Rosita and Glenn and... Who else is out with
Rick's got to have a run-in with the guy from the fucking truck on the way back in the next episode. There's no way they don't cross paths at this point.
And what bad is going to happen? Rick's still got both hands. This could be a problem. They seem to be fixing.
They keep teasing shit from the comics.
Yeah, he cuts his hand. Yeah, but they seem to be kind of bringing those storylines back in line with the comics. So who knows? Angie says Carol needs to snap out of that shit and be badass Carol. I think Kenny agrees 100% that we need badass Carol back.
Be badass or die.
Or be dead. One or the other. So.
Or stay in. Don't try to go out and get medicines and a cola for your woman and take an arrow to the eye.
And have everybody be upset and make stupid decisions because Daryl tends to make dumbass decisions.
And it's always over some pussy.
That he's not getting. Which I don't understand at all. And she says, leave the group and you weaken the tight family. They've become, again, survival is all about staying with the people that you're with. And when you threaten everybody when you leave like that. So, again, if you're going to hang out with my zombie survival crew and you or any of your people leave, you're getting left behind.
I mean, we said last week, if you couldn't provide something, you were gone.
Well, yeah, and if
kids included.
If you start to walk away, I will shoot you in the back of the head. And then, you know what? I have a very Soviet Union sense about that. Keep people in line because you keep you from retreating. If you walk away, I shoot you. Now nobody walks away. Hey, everything's solved. Well, somebody's got to go out. Angie says, Kenny, got to go out and get meds. We do, but you don't send out the emotionally disturbed person to go do it. You don't send out the person who's going to threaten everyone else to go do it.
It should have just been...
You don't send out the inexperienced person to go do it.
It should have just been Daryl and Rosita.
Right.
Although then this pass would have still been split, I think.
See, I don't think so. I think Rosita only went that way to try and prove something because the doctor was there. I think otherwise she follows along and they don't get jumped.
Just followed Daryl.
I think she wouldn't. It was more about like, let me show you, let me show you something, and look what happens. This is what happens.
So do Rosita and Eugene hook up? You think they'll hook up before one of them dies?
Like I said,
he did offer a cookie.
I want. She should.
And he wants that cookie, so.
Dude, I want the cookie too. I think that AMC should do one R-rated version that involves Rosita fucking getting naked. I would enjoy
HBO could have had it. I bet you they're kicking themselves in the ass right now.
Well, and I am too, just because of that reason. Because
6 seasons in, they're probably kicking themselves in the ass.
But think about the violence, everything. I love what AMC has done with the show, and it's made it family appropriate enough that
I could let kids watch it.
You can let kids watch it, even though you probably shouldn't. But the other side of that is,
even though you tried to tell me I shouldn't let a 4-year-old watch,
you should not let a 4-year-old
Roger Rabbit. So.
You shouldn't let a 4-year-old watch Roger Rabbit. That's absolutely true. But
how's Roger Rabbit worse than this?
Because it's about the way that the information's presented. I said the same thing about Deadpool. I got my boss to not let his kid see Deadpool. His 13-year-old. There's weird shit in there.
13?
Yes, there's weird shit in there that a 13-year-old should not see.
You think 13-year-olds at this point don't talk about weirder shit than that?
His kid is super sheltered. So I don't.
You understand that one, don't you?
Yes, and okay. I'm saying don't expose the kid to that because you're going to turn your kid into me, and that's not a good thing.
So you're saying you're not a good thing?
No, I do not want your kids. You don't want your kids to be like me. No. When your kid sees Ryan Reynolds choking out the hot girl while they're having sex, your kid starts to think, maybe it'd be cool to choke a chick out while I'm having sex. And this is what happens.
But that's good sex.
Well, yeah, because we're fucked in the head. Because you were watching Friday the 13th when you were 3 years old, and because I got exposed to perverted sex practices. So, anyway, getting back on topic.
I had sex while watching Cat Williams and fucking just dropped off the girl in the middle of it. The one where he was doing the
laying
on the bike and he was spinning around.
Yes.
I was in the middle of having sex and it was playing. I just fucking fell out laughing in the middle of the floor.
And you're about to have somebody come up here and beat you with a broom.
She's in the bathroom.
Okay, good. Well, make sure the broom's right there for her to beat you.
And that was in 2009. So.
So getting back to how the hell did we get off on topic
before
about that?
Christ.
Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Zombie Jesus Day. So what were we talking about before that? But, oh, Jesus. So HBO's probably kicking themselves. And again, it's a mix between HBO would have done something that I think that was much closer to the comic. Because the comic does kind of have gratuitous violence, gratuitous sex, kind of all of that stuff.
But I even with that, I think Robert Kirkman would have still done some kind of style that's close to what we see now.
Sure.
The violent stuff would have probably still been violent though.
More violent.
We probably would have seen Judith die in the prison shit. Like,
right.
I would comment. But because it's on AMC, it's regular TV.
If Lucille ends up ending some characters' lives, we won't actually see it. Because you can show zombies' heads getting smushed, but you can't show characters getting bashed in the head. The difference is HBO would show you being able to smash them.
Well, you could see it, but it wouldn't be no close-up like you would see with the zombies.
Right.
Like when they stab people, it's always from afar.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
We talked about this last week.
No.
I still haven't seen it.
Alright, so spoiler for Game of Thrones, it doesn't really matter. Because it doesn't affect the storyline.
I haven't even gotten any further on Jessica Jones.
At one point in Game of Thrones, a guy literally grabs another dude's head and just smashes it, and it just explodes everywhere. And you see it from the perspective of the smasher.
How many seasons is that in?
6. It's going into season 7.
It's
it's 9 episode seasons.
Is it on Netflix?
No. HBO Go, man. HBO Go. Huniho, hello. I have no idea what language that is. I apologize. I cannot read what you're writing. Thank you for watching, though.
We're getting people from
super appreciate. I know. I love it. Love it. So,
might have to start learning Spanish.
You should probably know Spanish anyway. because we live in
slept
America.
in that class. We live. Where did you just say we lived?
We live in America.
Why should I know Spanish?
Because there's a lot of Spanish people who live here.
Okay, but if somebody lives here, they should know Spanish.
What's
American.
American? They should know American?
They should know English.
But
even though we're technically not from here either, so.
Right. There you go. You know who was here first? The Spanish.
The Vikings.
The Spanish.
The Vikings were here before, what the fuck his face name is?
Christopher Columbus?
Yep.
Chinese were
and before that, Native Americans were here, and then we stole the land from them. So.
And you know what the Native American tribe was called? The Tainos.
I don't want to know.
And the Spanish called them the Latinos.
I don't want to know, because then you screw up my
thought. A bit of history.
Stop.
Junito, welcome from Brazil. Thank you. So that's Portuguese, which I don't speak. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but...
Fast and Furious movie took place there.
That's what you know about Brazil. So, looking forward to the Olympics in 2016, later on this year. So Angie says Daryl is not dead. Well, we'll see, Angie. Our Deadpool, I have Daryl, and Kitty has Glenn. So we'll wait and see. And Carol as a kicker. Karina also has Carol. No.
I don't remember. We're gonna have to go back to.
We'll have to go back and see.
We gotta go back and see before next week. Yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch the first fucking episode. We're gonna have to try to fight. Fuck.
I have no idea.
Corey to get here next week somehow.
So Angie says HBO would maximize sex and stuff. AMC has got this. Game of Thrones is awesome, but no kid should see it. Angie, I agree, and for all of those reasons. The only thing that I think that's missing though is that little bit of edge of the human-on-human violence. And not that we need it, except for we're both fucked in the head and we like really super violent stuff. And HBO would like
with the serial killer documentary picture I sent out earlier.
Yes. So, and the difference is that on AMC, kids can watch The Walking Dead, and it can be more of a family thing. On HBO, it couldn't, certainly couldn't. Angie says Daryl can't die. The wound that isn't that severe, and look at what he's already survived. We'll see. Daryl can die. Everyone can fucking die. It's Robert Kirkman says nobody is safe. So Greg Nicotero says no one is safe. So
and like we said last week, all the actors have already said that the last episode is a tearjerker.
Yeah. So somebody's done.
They even had a hard time reading the script. So we'll see. So,
Junijo, unfortunately doesn't comprehend English. I'm sorry, my friend. Lo siento, mi amigo. Hablo un poquito español, pero no hablo portugués nada. Lo siento. Gracias por estás aquí. Thank you, Junijo. So, wrapping up for the week, we have everybody back at base. Enid's actually being a good little helper, which I appreciate. Looks like she's being a good teenager. Maggie's going through some shit, and I guess we'll have to see what happens. Honestly, that might be the tearjerker. The tearjerker might be Maggie losing the baby, and it might be a fucking farce. Never know.
I mean, I don't know. To me, if she lost the baby, it's like probably for the better.
Well, but yeah, but for women everywhere, they would not be.
The end of season 5 wasn't like a real big thing, and it always flip-flops.
Yeah.
So something big has to happen next week, especially with it being an hour and a half long.
And we have to wait it's the long wait till the next season. So, not as opposed to the short wait over the mid-season.
2 months as compared to
4?
6, something like that.
October. So, 10.
But we have Fear the Walking Dead to kind of draw it out a little bit.
Right,
so.
Yeah. So, everything looks good in Alexandria, but as the Saviors had said, they are closing in. So we'll see how that plays in. But I think most of the action is going to be not in Alexandria. It's going to be wherever the Saviors are. Because Glenn, Michonne, my beautiful, beautiful Rosita, and Daryl are all headed to meet Negan. And thank God we are finally on our way to meet Negan. The big question is, do we meet Negan, or do we merely see him from behind for 10 seconds and that's it?
All we gotta do is see him from the front for 1 second.
Just
that's all it takes.
So, any other thoughts from this week's episode?
All around, I thought it was a great episode. It's obviously leading up to a big end one way or another.
Yeah.
Whether we see Negan or not from the front, doesn't matter. Somebody Major is probably going to die next Sunday night.
Yep.
We're probably going to come into our podcast next Sunday night with some kind of grief, because it's probably going to be somebody we care about one way or another.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it be Carol or Daryl, Carl. Okay, it's not going to be Carl. It's not going to be Carl or Rick, but you never know.
Carl and Carol are both team hashtag no aim and no game. So
maybe Morgan.
Maybe Morgan, could be Morgan.
He went out on his own, and we know how he is. He won't kill somebody that's human at this point. So.
And he almost lost it to the vampire, to the zombie. Because the zombie went for his neck. So I was thinking about the guarding of the neck, where he like went up with his hand to guard his neck.
I thought he was going to bite the dust right then.
Yeah. I was like, oh, there we go. Now that's the surprise.
Guess on Talking Dead.
So we'll have to see build up to the 90 minutes. Angie, with the last comment of the night, says the Saviors are closing in, but they are picking them off bit by bit. They are, but we are settling in for the big. There's going to be a big battle. That's what it's coming down to. It can't continue.
It's going to be next season now, I think. Just like with the whole governor thing.
Yeah.
They held it off, and then they had like a half a season where like shit was alright, but the H1N1 pirate shit was going on.
Yeah.
And then the governor, you find out the governor in one episode has been watching them the entire time.
Right. I think what we're going to see, whatever happens with Michonne and Glenn and Daryl and Rosita with Negan, and then set up. That's going to take probably this next episode and most of next half season. The half season after that'll be it.
I'd be kind of sad if Michonne was the one to go.
But
she is a badass with a katana.
And Angie says, Maggie's not well. I think losing the baby, that's the tearjerker coming. I agree, Angie. I think that when they said the tearjerker's coming, it's Maggie going through this losing the baby. I think that's what we're looking for. So, but we'll know in days, 23 hours, and 23 hours exactly. So, we'll see what happens. So, any other thoughts?
As far as Walking Dead goes tonight,
yep.
No.
All right.
Everybody can tune in probably Wednesday night for our weekly Thursday podcast that you can catch on DirtyShoreUnderground.com.
Yep. We'll be back on Thursday. Make sure you check out DirtyShoreUnderground.com. Make sure you're following at Dirtyshore UG on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates, including links to the live stream, which is always available at youtube.com/C/DirtyShoreUG-OTA. Dirty Shore Underground Podcast, part of the The Anthem Digital Network. Before we do go, a big shout out. You've seen us vaping on the episode. As always, sending out a big shout out to Oasis Vapor in Denton, Maryland.
Working on my clouds, man.
Working on clouds. Oasis Vapor is on North 6th Street. It's a big red building right off Route 404. You're not going to find a friendlier place to go, a place that's more educated on vaping. Whether you're trying to quit smoking like me, and just starting out, or whether you're like Kenny and
that was a good one.
Working on big clouds. Oasis Vapor's got everything that you need to get into the vape lifestyle. So go by there, check it out. Oasis Vapor. Check out the show notes. There's a link to their Facebook page.
How many months cigar-free are you now?
From November. So what? That's 4 or 5 months. 5 months no cigarettes.
It's like August. So
yeah. So crazy. But make sure you check out the link there. If you go in there during the week, say hi to Nate. Let him know you heard about it on the podcast. Kenny will be there on the weekends. So come and say hi to Kenny on the weekends if you're in there. Oasis Vapor is one of 25 shops that has the
Rogue Mod, Mech Mod for competitions.
Right. So they have equipment that you're not going to find anywhere else. Well, only in 25 other places in the whole country. So it's worth the drive to Denton, Maryland to Oasis Vapor. Always big fans of them, and they're big fans of the podcast. So let them know that you heard about them on there. If you do your shopping world, make sure you check out the Amazon tab at DirtyShoreUnderground.com. On the main page and on each individual post, you can click on the tab there. I recommend bookmarking that as Amazon in your bookmarks. You click on that tab, takes you through to Amazon, you do your shopping just like normal. I mean, everybody's shopping on Amazon anyway. Got a little money for Easter, returning some gifts, maybe getting something for Mother's Day coming up. Whatever it is, and you're doing your shopping, click through the Amazon tab. Costs you nothing extra, but gives us a little something and helps out our cost, deferring our cost to bring this free content to you every single week. So anything you can do to help us out is always appreciated. Anything else?
Buy Rob's books.
You can buy my books. Make sure you check me out at robertncheek.com. Join my email list, rob@robertncheek.com for all the latest news, at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Information about me, my books, my political blog, everything else is available at robertncheek.com, so make sure you check that out.
And if all goes well, we'll be attending another wrestling show next month.
Hey, let's hope for that. So make sure you look for the new episode live streaming later on this week. It'll be available in podcast form on Thursday, DirtyShoreUnderground.com. Until then, have a great week, everybody.
Good night, everybody.